Okay, this is the end of the year channel milestones for the 2024 year. And so one of the obvious big events of the year was I got fired from the Chef AJ show. And I got fired because I told the truth about the moderate fat vegans who I call the high fat phonies, who are really promoting what I would call the, sort of the vegan version of the Mediterranean diet, by saying that is not the same thing as the McDougall diet, which is a low-fat version of the low-fat version of the vegan diet, which is pretty much almost the same thing, really, as the Esselstyn diet. So that's what it was about. And then they tried to say it was about the Kempner joke. It was not about the Kempner joke. It was about the difference between the diets. So this is Chef AJ. That's me, the medical monk, getting fired from that show. Okay, that's what that was about. Because in my opinion, there's a big push to take the legacy of Dr. McDougall, which is a low-fat vegan diet, as sort of inherited from Kempner, from Pritikin, from Burkitt, and sort of pretend that it's the same thing as a moderate-fat vegan diet. It is not, okay? And then this was the picture, the famous picture of Walter Kempner. He was famous for having essentially his own harem, and he had several houses connected by walkways to his house, and he had a woman in each house, okay? And he was multimillionaire, and he really was the biggest financial producer for Duke University, Durham, North Carolina, okay? And this is the infamous picture, which they made such a fuss about. It's just silliness. And everybody who studied nutrition knows the story of Kempner. This is not like some mystery. Dr. McDougall would joke about it too. So that was the infamous Kempner drawing, okay? And then this is part of what the fuss was about. So this is Martin Luther King, and he was sort of accepted by society. This was Malcolm X. He was not that accepted by society. Malcolm X said that persons who were accepted by society were more like what he called them, the house Negroes, sort of like from the movie Gone with the Wind, the persons that were in the house with the other plantation families. And he said that he himself was like a field Negro. And so I jokingly said, well, that's somewhat similar, analogous to what's happening in the vegan movement. So in the vegan movement, what you're seeing is the groups that I call the high-fat phonies, they are promoting what I would consider a high-fat version of the vegan diet, sort of a vegan Mediterranean diet. And that includes, omega-3s, nuts and seeds, and for many of them, olive oil, and lots of them, soy. And so that's a typical thing. Now, in general, society doesn't like the word vegan. I can tell you, I've had viewers tell me, don't ever say you're a vegan because people think you're crazy or you're weird. The vegan diet, that word is not popular. That's also why a lot of people use the word plant-based diet, okay? And this moderate vegan stuff, at least they're eating all plant food, so it's better than eating, the regular Mediterranean diet. It's certainly, 1,000 times better than paleo, keto, carnivore and all that, or the SAD diet. So it is a step in the right direction, but it's not the healthiest diet. And then there's even what I would call the McDougall diet being sort of, jokingly referred to in Wikipedia as vegan extremism, okay? He got badmouthed pretty bad in Wikipedia. And that's because Wikipedia doesn't want the public to know the truth about this. And there's other people that promote pretty similar diet to that, like True North promotes something similar to that. Jeff Nelson does, Pritikin did, etc. And so that actually is doable for people, that version of the vegan diet. My own personal version is a little bit more strict. For example, I recommend 100% organic because I think there's pretty serious toxins, with the GP sprayed on the soy and with the atrazine sprayed on the corn. I think those are pretty serious toxins and I would not eat them. I also think one should totally avoid MSG, MFG, manufactured-free glutamate. I also think soy is a much worse food than is widely acknowledged. Also, I'm with Esselstyn when he says not one drop of oil, not one drop. There's good reason for that. The Tetsumori Yamashima theory of toxic aldehydes, hydroxynonenal, lipid peroxidation, and then the whole calpain-cathepsin theory of neurodegeneration, okay? As far as some of the other diets, there's Walter Kempner, which was much more strict for very sick people, about ready to be hospitalized for severe hypertension or for kidney failure. And rice is only 1% of calories from fat, and McDougall called this a diet for the nearly dead. There's sort of the raw is the law type of people, and Ruth Heidrich went down that path eventually. She started out on the McDougall diet, ended up on a raw diet. This guy, Michael Arnstein's a famous ultra-marathoner who eats a raw vegan diet, and there's some other pretty well-known ones. There was the Raw Till 4 school with Durian Ryder and Freely, the banana girl. And I kind of joke that Durian Ryder and Freely were sort of like this young couple They were a high drama romantic couple in the vegan community, and I joked that the breakup between Chef AJ and me was a little bit like the old people's version of Durian Ryder and Freely the Banana Girl. So anyways, the point I was making though about the diets is that my version of the vegan diet is more strict than the McDougall sort of Nelson version. And the reason for that is, what they were usually talking about was getting some older people who are sick and getting them to be more healthy. Whereas I was seeking optimal. What's the best I could do? I don't want to just be healthier than, the average fat, sick person. I want to be as healthy as possible. And so we go into, filtering water, reverse osmosis, avoiding all caffeine, avoiding all alcohol, all MJ, for example, avoiding EMF, all these other things. Okay? And so the reason why I said that this is like the failed Negroes of veganism is nobody wants anything to do with these people. The reason why nobody wants anything to do with these people is because, including the Spartan vegan version of the vegan diet, is because you can't sell anything. Nobody makes money off low-fat vegans. They're healthy and they don't sell anything, so you don't make any money off them, and that makes it unpopular. Versus you go down this path, the moderate to high-fat, you can sell a lot of stuff. There's billions of dollars of profit in selling omega-3s and selling olive oil and selling nuts and seeds and all this stuff. Okay, so that's where that comes from. And I think it's important for people to know about that because the public doesn't usually understand all these things. Okay, some of the nicknames for this channel, like I said, it started out as Spartan Vegan Diet, and then when I was criticizing all these food products and the toxicology, I took on the nickname from some of Bad Boy of Veganism, and that also prevented me from being interviewed at a lot of places. Also, I speak a lot about Christianity because I think that's necessary to save healthcare, even though it's not going to be allowed. That's the only thing that could save it. And I ended up becoming nicknamed the Medical Monk, and some viewers sent me some really nice memes of that. And I think you have to have the Bible-based view in order to do good science, because otherwise it just goes to advertising and money, and almost all modern medical science is fake, and it's just done for advertising to sell drugs or to sell some other surgical device, for example. Some other persons recommended Medical Heretic, and Harvard Heretic sounded better than that. I'll show you the Vegan Prophet poster that the Jeffrey Phillips group made a really nice poster of that. I'll show that to you. Well, the other joke was that I used to be Chef AJ's Failed Negro. Now I'm Chef AJ's ex-Failed Negro. And then I got labeled, plant shoppers refuse to interview me. They call me the divisive one. Yeah, because I tell the truth instead of the BS that he promotes, like the high-fat phonies. Other people said the Rodney Dangerfield of nutrition. Okay. All right, so here was the Spartan Vegan. Here was the Fonz as the bad boy of veganism from the good old show Happy Days. Here was a nickname my wife used to call me as an insult. She'd call me Stanczyk. And Stanczyk was this Polish, he was an assistant to the king, but he was also sort of a court jester. And he was a real intelligent guy and pretty serious, and he was considered a party pooper. While everybody's dancing and drinking, he'd be reading the newspaper worried about some conflict externally. Poland lost a battle in Smolensk, for example. But it's a one word, and it's simultaneously a bunch of insults. Short, clown, brooding, paranoid, party pooper, Stanczyk. Okay, now here is the Vegan Prophet. And the Vegan Prophet was, I used to write my books in the format of like Plato and Plato's Republic, basically a Socratic dialogue, dialectic, where different characters are debating subjects with each other. And I recently went on the Jeffrey Phillips show. This is Jeffrey Phillips show. And it was a real enjoyable interview. They had a really good, smart group there, and we talked about a lot of things, and it was good. But it reminded me of the Vegan Prophet character. The idea of making a book like a play, a conversation. And it's pleasant, easy to read, and so that's why I did it. And they just made this meme, and I liked it. And it's kind of funny. They got Bart K, the crazy paleo keto carnivore guy in a dunce cap. I thought that was kind of fun. One of the viewers sent me a meme for being the medical monk, and I actually think that's a perfect name. Actually, if somebody really knows me, that's probably the best name for me in the channel, because I know 100% that's what it's going to take to make things better, and I don't think people are smart enough to do it. Here's the foundation of good health, and then here's a diet. Starch, fruits, veggies, vitamin B12, and all this personal stuff you got to get straight. And that's why I love Thomas Aquinas, because he's sort of the big unifier of faith and reason, how they go together. And you can't have one without the other. You think you can, but you can't. Because people say, oh, you don't need religion for science. Yes, you do. The reason is without a moral foundation, everything gets corrupted. Currently, the big corporations, they own the scientists, they own the journal, and they just publish a bunch of nonsense to sell their drugs. Okay, and you can't fix that unless you value the individual a lot. Okay, this was, like I said, Thomas Aquinas had a vision. He went before Jesus Christo and he said, I'm trying, I hope I did okay. And Jesus Christo said, yeah, you did good, you're doing fine. And that's who I answer to, so I'm not too worried about, what other people say. Here is the Medical Reformation. I wrote 5 big books this year. This is the greatest medical book ever written. It's basically rewrote the medical textbooks, because the internal medicine textbooks are a joke. They're completely wrong. They're completely stupid. They're stupid to the point of being nonsense. And this is basically rewriting the internal medicine textbooks and their subspecialty books. It's so obvious, it's not even funny. Like they'll tell you hypertension, 95% is idiopathic or essential. Nobody knows the cause. It's ridiculous. And in places where they eat low-fat, plant-based diets, the incidence of hypertension is 0. It doesn't exist. When you avoid the high-fat diets and excessive added sodium, you don't get hypertension. So anyways, this is a Medical Reformation, Vegan Renaissance Bible, something like 800 pages. It's a big book. Okay, but if you ever just want to read one of my books, that'd be the one. And as part of talking about the book, I started wearing, and the viewers sent me the medical monk costume. I liked it, so I started wearing a medical monk costume. And here's one where I burnt a copy of the PDR, Physician's Desk Reference for Selling Drugs, and the DSM, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Psychiatry. All the psychiatry drugs are bad. They're a joke. Okay, then I seen that most of the art books that kind of stink. By the way, I own like 300 art books, all right? So I've been interested in art a long time. That I noticed that all the college-produced art books, and they all stink. And the reason they stink, you'll have individual art books that are good. If they'll say, this is the art of Raphael, this is the art of Michelangelo, those will be really good. But the survey books, they all stink because they always make the same mistake. They try to be comprehensive and include all these caveman drawings, broken statues, and then fat fertility goddesses, and then they pretend modern art's the same as real art, and too much text and not enough pictures. So I just took all the masterpieces, primarily paintings, but I also included Christian music, Christian sculpture, a little bit about architecture, literature, etc. And this is best Christian art. The aesthetics of Christianity are like 100,000 times better than any other group. All this multiculturalism stuff is a bunch of nonsense. Compared to Christianity, all other cultures stink at art. They stink, okay? They're not even in the ballpark. Christian art and music, it's magnificent. It's the best the world has ever produced. They're the light of the world, okay? And there's a big push by the billionaires of the world to get rid of Christianity. Well, you get rid of Christianity, you're going to have not much more than a slave, labor, camp, okay? Okay, here's another book I wrote, Top 50 Books in Health and Nutrition, so that if anybody wants to really, do the background reading, this enables them to know where to go. I've read many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books all about health and nutrition. This is the 50 best ones. And if you read these, you'll be solid, okay? You don't have to, but it's good to know they're there, because I'm not a big fan of everything going to audiobooks. I think that's a bad idea, because those can just be deleted. If you own the hard copy book, you can always go back to it. Hard copy books have been around for many thousands of years. Look at the Iliad and the Odyssey. What has that been around for? Over 3,000 years. So it's good to have a hard copy book. It's good to have a hard copy DVD and audio CD. Okay, here's another book I wrote this year. This is the book about Dr. John McDougall, the greatest doctor who ever lived. And I love this painting that shows like him with Mary. It's just perfect, okay? So anyways, that was a summary of his work. He was the best doctor in the world. I want to be the best doctor in the world. I actually think I am the best doctor in the world. And I tell you the truth. I know a lot. I know more than the other doctors, and I tell you the truth. There's a lot of ones out there that are real good, but a lot of them are playing games. They're playing 80-20 games, 70-30 games, 60-40 game, meaning that they tell you the truth 60% of the time, 70% of the time, even 80% of the time. But the other 20%, they're trying to sell you some nonsense to make money, or to promote something for their sponsor or something, or to sell something from their channel. Okay, so, and also I'm talking at a level to doctors to convince them, rather than just trying to sell stuff to the public. So I go into a lot more detail. Here's my most recent book, Food, Mood, and IQ, which basically goes through, psychology's a joke, so I corrected the psychology books. Psychiatry's a joke, I corrected the psychiatry books. There's a lot of neurology that's wrong and out of date, so I corrected that. And then, in addition, I kind of gave an updated version of the the theories of dementia, what causes dementia. And you really need those theories because it's by understanding the theories that you know what to do to prevent it. For example, I'll list about 100 things that increase your risk of dementia. So you just avoid those 100 things and your risk of dementia dramatically drops. That's how you can do it in an intelligent fashion. Oh, this was just one thing about like how my wife reacted to my books. She could care less about me writing these books or giving these YouTube videos because in her opinion, why would I write these books and make almost nothing on these books, just tiny amounts, pocket change, when I could have gotten a moonlighting job, second job, and made an extra $400,000 a year, okay? To her, it was insanely stupid. But to me, it's sort of like, you know, I work long hours already as it is. I need some time to rest and sleep and do something else. I enjoy my hobbies. No one else is making these books. These are the best medical books ever written. I wouldn't have made them if they didn't need to be written. So anyways, what my wife did was she took the books and she used them as a paperweight to flatten the corners of a carpet. Of course, she'd never read them, but just to give you a sense, that's kind of the attitude of conventional doctors towards nutrition, epidemiology, and toxicology. It's like, who cares about it? There's no money in it. So what if the patient gets cured? The patient's just a poor chump, you know, who cares about them? Okay. Out of all my books, the one that's most popular with people is the Best Christian Art. You know, on the internet, people buy books because they want to learn about a medical thing. But I'm talking about in person. Most people don't care about medicine, science, nutrition, epidemiology, toxicology. They just gravitate towards the beauty of that art book. Okay, and then I also got divorced this year, and it actually was a surprise. This picture is not too far from the actual reality, and that was a surprise. Everybody in the family, my kids and me, we all thought it was a joke. How could somebody who looks so old and so fat want to divorce somebody like me? It was a big surprise. It was a big surprise. But I also had the experience that I talked to a bunch of women at work, and it was like 3 out of 5, they all said if their husband called them fat, they would file for divorce. And I'm like, are you guys insane? You'd break your families apart and create all this trauma and loss of money, all this money given away to lawyers, just because your husband called you fat. That's insane, okay? And so I came to the conclusion that women are emotionally insane when it comes to divorce. They don't quite appreciate the terrible consequences. You know, being called fat is a pretty minor thing compared to breaking up your family and throwing a couple $100,000 in a garbage can. Okay, I had previously written a whole bunch of stuff. I've written a couple books about the spine. I have the best theory in the world of spinal degeneration. I go into all the ischemic components, chemical components, autoimmune components, etc. I figured out mechanisms of cancer causation related to mitochondria inhibitors. I gave lectures on that. I figured out all the mitochondria inhibitors. There's tons of them. You know, there's nothing about this in the books and all the medical school and undergraduate, graduate school biochemistry textbooks. But you go into the literature, I quickly found over 60 mitochondria inhibitors. Mitochondria inhibitors, they increase your risk of aging, they increase your risk of diabetes, they increase your risk of excitotoxicity in the brain and dementia. They're a big deal. Anything that increases your risk of diabetes increases your risk of atherosclerosis. Okay, I previously had talked about all these diets, and you know, the thing that I found interesting when I talked to all these people from India, I realized they were eating a lot of fried food, my friends that I talked to, and that totally corresponds to the Tetsumori Yamashima theory as a way to then explain that's why they got such a high rate of diabetes. And the reason they're skinny with their diabetes is they essentially have type 1.5 or late onset type 1 destroying the pancreas beta cells. So that's why they're skinny, rather than, even though it's happening in adulthood, they're not getting the more characteristic fat person look for type 2 diabetes. And then other stuff here we previously talked about how you're pretty much screwed on the SAD diet. The Japanese, Korean, East Asian diet of eating tons of rice with a lot of vegetables is actually a very good diet. The reason why they got in trouble is they were eating 12 to 14 grams a day of sodium, off the charts, high sodium, and they were smoking like a chimney, okay? But other than that, they're some of the healthiest people in the world. Low-fat vegan, you win everything. You're better in every single category. Less cancer, less atherosclerosis, less diabetes, less obesity, everything's good. It's like winning the jackpot. It all lines up. Okay, I gave plenty of lectures on leaky gut and went into all kinds of detail about all the causes of leaky gut. And then even more interesting, I went into how that relates to the amyloid clotting. This is largely the work of Douglas Kell from England and Etheresia praetorius from South Africa, and it's really fascinating stuff. And this amyloidogenic clotting from bacterial endotoxins, postprandial endotoxemia, is very interesting. I think it's a major cause of cognitive decline, microvascular angina, damage to the heart, And this is not widely recognized, and it's easily preventable. And you also get a similar mechanism from excess free iron. And most American men are iron overloaded in their 20s, women when they're postmenopausal, and it's leading to ferrous redox cycling that's also going to cause amyloidogenic clotting. And this is totally preventable. No doctor knows this, okay? And also I've made lots of videos talking about the fact that people should be speaking about this modern art. It's an insult, okay? A statue of a turd is an insult. That's not art. That's an insult. That's a mockery of society. Here's real art, Michelangelo's Pietà. And people should support that and talk about that, okay? And in the old days, you had all these beautiful movies like It's a Wonderful Life, real emotion, real feelings, real families, okay? And that's what life's all about. Not all this fake action, retarded stuff that you see in Hollywood nowadays. People should not go to those movies. Okay, and this is basically kind of what it comes down to. Are you going to accept the teaching of Jesus Christ, be nice to each other, respect individual rights, that what you do to the least of my brother, you're doing to me? Or are we going to keep on going down the path of atheistic Darwinism, which just leads to destruction and slavery? And so here's another meme that shows it. You're either going to, wake up and do what's right and be good and accept all the teaching, give each other the benefit of the doubt, love thy neighbor, that what you do to the least of my brethren, you're doing to me, okay? That's what leads to a happy society and happy families and people getting along versus all this modern nonsense that's being pushed on us. That's all nonsense, okay? That just leads to slavery. Okay, so yeah, the whole point of this channel, by the way, I got over 2 million views in August. Currently, we're at 2.8 million views for the channel. There's over 3,900 videos on this channel. If this channel ever gets booted off the current site, it'll just be sent over to the other sites, like Odyssey, like the RUMBLE, like the Tick and the Talk, like Twitter, and all these other ones. I'll just go to those other channels. I have all the videos stored up, and that's where I'll just take them. I got all the knowledge in my head, of course, too. And I've had docs. Docs have personally bought me external hard drives and bought me Faraday bags because they said my videos are the most valuable health information on the entire internet. They said basically I've rewritten the medical textbooks, medical pathophysiology books, and that my information is correct, the other books are wrong. And this information needs to be saved for mankind because it's mankind's hope that they can be healthier. And without it, you're screwed. You're not gonna become healthy. You're not going to cure dietary disease with a pill. There's no pills are poisons, basically. You can't poison your way to health. Okay, there's no medical, surgical bullshitology that can fix a dietary disease other than fixing diet. So anyways, those are the goals of the channel, to be the best health information site on the internet, and it already is. To teach other things like study skills, academic skills, how to write, how to give presentations, and to help people remember the great achievements of Western civilization in art, literature, philosophy, music, etc. So anyways, that's basically it. I hope you've enjoyed the videos, and hopefully we'll make a lot of good stuff for you to enjoy in 2025. So Happy New Year.